All right, we will get restarted. Faster we get restarted, the faster we go home.
Oh, I was gonna stay here for a long time.
I know you do. You do actually. All right, hope you all enjoyed lunch.
Very good, very good.
I stay awake now for the afternoon.
Yeah.
So we covered a lot there in the morning. Appreciate you bearing with us. Wanted to get the rule stuff, the heavy rule stuff for the morning. And then talk more about this afternoon, how to actually be a rules official, CGA policies and best practices. And more of just what you'll actually see out on the golf course when you're out there. So again, we'll say thank you. Great collection of pictures here from all of our volunteers from quite a few years now. Like I said, couldn't do what we do without you. Thank you very much. And we'll talk more about how we say thank you here in the slides upcoming. So start with our expectations for the rules officials. So as you probably picked up today, or some of you have quite a few at home already, gave you a shirt, hat, rules officials name badge, and all of the different types of books involving the rules. You could spend your nights falling asleep reading. If any of those things you need more of them, they get dirty, you lose them, whatever the case may be, let me know throughout the year, and we'll kind of refill at your next tournament for each of those things, or sometimes we'll mail them out to you, whichever is easier. So we have our annual thank you gift for helping the previous year. Some people, as they get started, we treat it like a thank you in advance for your help gift. So this year we had the cart covers, backpacks, the Columbia jackets, and the 1 day credit. So you had your choice of those, and I'll talk more about those in a second. So when you sign up for an event, you have the option to go out as far as you want in the schedule. Some people like to sign up right before, the week before the tournament's coming up to make sure they're available. Some people like to map out their entire year. Once you do sign up, you'll get a confirmation email right away. And then we say 3 to 7 days before the tournament, you'll get an email from the official in charge. We abbreviate OIC a lot, with the committee assignments for that particular tournament. When it gets into the summer and we are running all over different kinds of places, we get down more to the 3 day window. In the less busy time, we're usually in the 7 day area of the window. If you get down to a day or two before the tournament and you haven't heard from the official in charge, if you know who they are, you can reach out to them. If you are not sure, send me an email and we'll get it sorted out. We have a Facebook group that encourage all of you to join if you are not already joined, and if you are joined, speak up. So we want this to be more of a forum where we can talk about the rules throughout the year. We get a lot of good training and discussion in the early parts of the year and at the course when you're out there on the tournament. But it's kind of a lack otherwise. And I know sitting down and reading the rules book all by yourself can get pretty boring. So when you have questions that come up, it could be something that you saw at a tournament, something that you saw as you were studying. If you have questions, please put them in the chat as a post, and we're happy to answer. You'll see a lot of our senior rules officials are active on there, and they'll answer right away. And please don't feel intimidated or think that your question is not good enough or it's an easy question or anything like that. Please feel free to speak up in there, and we'd like to get that chat going a little more robustly this year. You'll see I put in a lot of the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour videos that we can, like I said, I like to learn visually. We put some of Jay Roberts videos in there as well. So anything that comes up, kind of current events, rules of golf, we'll put in there as well. But if something you see on the weekend you're watching golf and there's an easy link or a video that you can embed, go ahead and do that. You don't have to wait for us to do that also.
Being math, that runs into a lot of reading times.
Yes, it does. So expense-wise, the CGA does not reimburse directly for your education, travel, or tournament-related expenses. We always provide lunch at CGA events, including USGA qualifiers, run our annual rules training seminar, try and get two. And then we also, I should say, we're going to post the rules seminar from Pinehurst and this seminar, the procedures one, on our YouTube page, and they'll be available too. If you want to go back or get back to something that we talked about today. We try and get information out to you as soon as we can, and ideally before everyone else knows about USGA Rule School that tend to fill up very quickly at the end of the year. And there's a study resource link on our website, carolinasgolf.org/rules officials. Some links on there that'll really help. So I added an asterisk this year to no special golf or tournament entry privileges, since we offered the credit for the one-day tournament. So you still can't. We don't want to say, we can get you into a bunch of golf tournaments. We can't change anything in terms of signups or lottery for one day, but we able to do that this year, and appreciate those of you that took advantage of it. We'd love to see you not only helping with CGA tournaments, but playing in CGA tournaments and getting the full member experience that we offer. So last year we started a rules officials incentive program. As costs of pretty much everything have gone up, rule school, gas, hotels, everything like that. We appreciate all the not only the time that you put into doing this, but also the money, and wanted to show you that thank you with a little bit of a incentive program, we call it. It's not meant to cover all of your expenses. It's not going to cover all your expenses, but just a little bit to help. So this past year we did tiered 5 to 10 days, 10 to 15, and 15 more, I think. So we're going to change it for 2024. We work a lot with the South Carolina Golf Association. This past year, they implemented a system where they pay $25 per day after the rules official has worked their 9th tournament day. So, and we'll pay it out the same way at the end of the year for those of you that got an incentive check in December. So the way it would work is if you work 8 days, unfortunately you didn't get to that 9th day, so you get 0. Once you work that 9th day, you get paid for all the days previously, so it'd be $225, 20 days, 500, and up from there. So like I said, not meant to, it's not going to be your part-time job or anything like that, but just a little thank you to offset some of the costs that you've incurred to help us, and hope that motivates you to work a little bit more. If you have a question too about where you are, we had a few people asking me late in the year where they were to try and get up to the next level. Send me those emails whenever, and I'll total it up for you. So what we expect when you're on the course, to be timely and attend the tournaments for which you have signed up to help. We say all the time that life always gets in the way of things like this. So something comes up, work, family, whatever the case may be, car trouble, happens more often than you would think. Just let us know as soon as you can. Whenever you get the committee assignments email, it'll come through Golf Genius, but you can reply to that email and it will go back to the official in charge who emailed it to you. So as soon as you can, just let them know, say, sorry, not going to be able to make Monday's qualifier, whatever the case may be. I think a lot of you have my or some of us our cell phone numbers by now too. If you want to shoot a text, say, sorry, I won't be able to make it. We do understand that. Just let us know as soon as we can. So as soon as you can, so we can juggle around the committee assignments and make it as smooth as possible for everybody else. We want you to be dressed neatly, present yourself in a professional manner. So you're an extension of the CGA and staff. There's a lot of players that they go around the golf course. They see a rules official as a starter. They see a rules official twice as they go around the course for rulings, and they get into scoring and they see a rules official, and they never actually see a CGA staff throughout the whole day. So some people don't even realize you guys are not CGA staff. So we always appreciate that you being that having the professional attire and professional attitude as you are the face, and sometimes people don't even realize you're not CGA. So then we ask for the white CGA shirt that we handed out, a hat, and then khaki, navy, or gray pants. Ask that you don't wear shorts for when you're a rules official. And for women, the white CGA shirt, hat, and khaki, navy or gray pants, shorts, or skirts. And we've got a couple pictures to illustrate various ways you can fulfill that. You can wear black pants, sorry. Yeah, black would be okay too. I'll add that. So like we said, be the face of the course and club when we're at the club. Courteous as much as you can to the host facility staff. We've talked a lot about how difficult scheduling has become as golf has boomed. It's been great for golf. It's been made it a lot harder for us to actually schedule tournaments. So any little advantage we can have of when the club sits down at the end of the year to figure out which tournaments they're going to host next year, we want them to say, you know, it was great having the CGA here. Everyone was really nice. Not, you know, a bunch of those people were jerks when they were here. We don't want to miss their tournament next year. So much as you can to help us out with that is appreciated. When you're there, listen to the official in charge for on-site assignments. Like we said, we'll send out that assignment, committee assignments in advance. They tend to change slightly or sometimes drastically by the time we actually get around to playing the tournament. So keep those with you, but be flexible and open to changing some of those. And just kind of work with the other tournament officials. We call it a committee. You're all working together to make sure the tournament experience is as good as possible. So our rules officials webpage, which you're probably familiar with. So there's the link at the top to the schedule that you can see all of our events that we need rules officials at this year. We'll have those YouTube videos, the second and third ones updated. And especially for while we're down here, the next two bullet points are the South Carolina Golf Association schedule and the Women's South Carolina Golf Association schedule. So they're always looking for rules officials just like we are. We have tournaments in North and South Carolina, but honestly, most of our tournaments, or the majority of our tournaments are in North Carolina because we're trying to balance what the South Carolina and Women's South Carolina Golf Associations do and not step on, balance out the playing opportunities and not step on toes and have too many requests of host sites. So they have a huge tournament schedule as well, and you're welcome to join them whenever you can to help them out. We have a new feature on Golf Genius, which should help, especially for those of you that live more towards the coast. It's a location filter. So we've been adding a location tag to each of our rules official sign-up events. At the top of the schedule, you can click the show filters at the top, that top left, and it'll pop down this location filter. You can filter the tournaments by however many miles from your zip code and kind of narrow it down. A lot of people have asked, it just wasn't possible previously. So they've got that going this year. There's a couple bugs that we found, and thankfully they've been fixed so far. But if you have issues with that, let me know too. But
gets this, it's just Carolina's golf.
So carolinasgolf.org/rules-official. So that's the normal one from the drop down. And then this link is the very top bullet point.
Great.
I'll send out a link to this as well. I'll do a recap email for you guys Monday or Tuesday.
Good.
And that I'll link a whole bunch of stuff.
Is there any way, I know I've asked you this, attending your grounds. Is there a way to get a list of all the tournaments, like the news all completed?
We can, yeah, actually that might be a Damien job. So we have a staff Google Sheets. So the problem is we don't have one that's exact what you're looking for. We have a staffing schedule, but not every staff event is a rules officials event. So we'll have to filter out some. So we'll have to clean that up a little bit. But yeah, we can do that.
I'm still old school. I can get
There you go, Damon. Thanks, sir. Yes.
looking at asking the same question. Seems like 2 years ago, we used to be able to get a drop down and just see our assignments happening, you know, checking them out. It doesn't seem to be working.
Someone said that last week, and I failed to follow up on that. So
That was really helpful.
Yeah.
Not for me last night.
it did.
Oh, yeah, mine said list my events first and then list everything not working after.
You did the filter?
It does not, or are you saying so?
No, you sign up for an event, all those events you sign up for go to the top.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble getting the dock house.
Yeah, a few people have told me that's not working. Yeah, let me check, because AJ said he had that too. I said, so our login is different since we have an admin login, so when people create a, fake rules official and sign up for some events and see if we can figure it out.
South Carolina, is that count for
So if you do a South Carolina, a USGA qualifier in South Carolina is a CGA event. So technically, all USGA qualifiers in North and South Carolina are CGA events. If you do a South Carolina Golf Association event, that's a different bucket. And you gotta do the same, get up to 9 of their days to get that, yeah.
So they have
Yes. Yeah,
Well, yeah, you went back to using your login ID and the password. And it probably for it. Not try to.
yeah, I'll work on it this week. All right, so we got some stats to show how much work you all did this year. So we had 117 officials work, a total of 940 tournament days. So we got a nice bump up from 113 in 2022 and 689 in 2022. So really appreciate all the extra days that you all put in. We had 22 officials work 10 or more tournament days. And we got the leaderboard. So we got David Hamilton, I guess almost everyone was at Pinehurst. David Hamilton, 33 days work. Bill Gillette and AJ Eckhart, 40 days work. And then our champ by quite a bit, David Kale, give him a round of applause. So he's gonna make a lot more money with the new policy. But we didn't put this in to try to make anyone feel bad. We just want to recognize people who did a lot. But just the same, we appreciate everyone who comes out and works 1, 2, 3 days. We appreciate everyone that, whether you can give 1, 2, 3 days, 10 days, 20 days, whatever it is, it all adds up, and it makes the tournament experience better. It makes our jobs easier, quite honestly. So we appreciate whatever time you can give. I wanted to mention also, if you can only work half a day, it's a 1-day qualifier, and you can come for the morning, but you gotta leave at lunch for whatever. That's fine. Do not have to be tied there the entire day. Just let the official in charge knows as early as you can, or send me a note, say, I signed up for whatever qualifier, but I can only work half a day. I'll make a note of that. And if it's a multi-day tournament, so 2, 3, 4-day championship, and you can only work 1, 2, 3 of the days, that's totally fine. Just let us know when you sign up. We'll put you into different divisions based on the days you can work. So just fill that out. So appreciate if you can work all 4 days is great, but if you can't, don't feel like you shouldn't sign up for it, because you have to be there all the entire day or all each of the days. And then we have a senior rules officials program I wanted to tell you about. So annually, we receive a lot of requests from outside golf associations, looking for officials to help them with their tournaments. So this is an optional program that allows the CGA rules officials the opportunity to officiate at these non-CGA events. A lot of them are college conference championships, Peggy Kirk Bell tournaments, things like that. So we have a kind of a standard form that the association fills out. Some of them pay for the day, some of them pay a stipend, pay for miles, pay for a hotel. Some of them are just, a shirt and lunch. Each of them is a little different. And I want to say this is, I stress again, this optional program is not a requirement. So it's a program that allows us to better serve the outside organizations and make sure that the people that we're recommending for their event are, can help at a level that's going to represent what the outside organization wants. And a lot of these events, you are going to be either the official in charge or sometimes the only official there. So we want to make sure it's someone who has a baseline rules knowledge and experience at CGA events. So it's kind of an unofficial certification program that we have. I want to make sure that you don't get too far in over your heads before you have the experience to work, on your own. A lot of, like I said, a lot of these times we're take on a much bigger role than a lot of times we're asking for you.
What is the difference between, slash, officials rules and golf?
So Golf Genius is the software program we use to run tournaments. And we also use it as the software program for you guys to sign up for tournaments. So each sign up that we make is actually a tournament. We're just obviously not playing any golf. So we're just creating tournaments, and then you're using your player profile to sign up for those.
So we can sign up through the website?
No, it has to be Golf Genius.
Oh,
So when you click on that top bullet point, that schedule with the little filter at the top, that's the Golf Genius page linked from our webpage.
thank you.
You're welcome. So you get a new special name badge, senior rules official, and our requirements for applying for the program. Attended a USGA PGA rules of golf workshop in the last 4 years. Achieved a 75 or higher on the 100-question exam, or 70 or higher on the 80-question exam, and worked at least 5 CGA tournament days in the last year. And attended the CGA rules of business training seminar within the last 4 years. So like I said, USGA qualifiers in North Carolina and South Carolina count. Non-CGA tournament days in either state do not count. SCGA, if you work a professional tour event, NCAA tournament, championship, anything like that, don't count towards the 5. And we also have the option, if you were a member of a USGA committee and received a score of 90 or higher, is the other way to be approved for the program. But stress again, totally optional. Don't feel like you need to do it, but if you feel like you have that kind of experience at the tournament and have that score from the Rules of Golf workshop, let me know, and I'm happy to. There's a link to the application form on the website, or I can send it to you, or we can talk more about it if you like. And I'll hand it back over to Mr. Damien.
All right, now we'll talk about some of the duties at CGA events as an official. As officials should possess a good knowledge of the rules of golf, and responsibility is to assist players around the golf course by playing within the USGA rules of golf. Place play monitor monitors the position of groups on the golf course in relation to a set time and position with other groups on the golf course. Monitors inform a rules official if there are any groups that could be or is out of position. Spotters assist in areas where there may be a blind tee shot, or where players have trouble seeing the group in front of them. This assists tremendously with pace of play. Starters are responsible for starting players at their assigned starting time, making sure that each player receives a scorecard, rule sheet, full location sheet, and any special local rules for that day, and answers any last-minute rules questions before play begins. And this is definitely a very important duty when it comes to tournament days. Scorers receive and check scorecards for accuracy and assist CGA officials with posting scores and keeping scorecards in proper order for repairing and cutting activities. Course setup, tournament day setup is extremely important. The CGA staff OIC is responsible for setting up the course prior to the event. Morning of the event, we may request that you set tee markers and verify hole locations for us. Setting tee markers, verify with staff OIC tee locations identification. For hole locations, use daily hole location sheet to confirm location is correct. And for hole evaluation, you can be the last member of the committee to evaluate the course before players get there. Bunkers and normal ground conditions, markings, stuff like that. Playoff officials, CGA staff, OIC will determine playoff holes and may need assistance in finding playoff players or transporting players to playoff holes. Additionally, officials will run playoffs until a tie is broken. Evacuation of the course, when suspension of play occurs, all hands are on deck and are needed to get players off the course in a safe manner. Official CGA procedure is to blow the horn and verbally tell all groups of the suspension of play. Match play referee must possess a strong working knowledge of the rules of golf. Referee is appointed and their decision is final. Carolina's floorball, South Carolina match play, and NC men's and women's match play championships are usually the only events where referees are used. And I'll get into some of the best practices as a rules official. Be firm and positive, but take plenty of time. A referee without pants is better equipped than a referee without a rules book. Good one right there. Consulting a rules book is not a sign of weakness. Even if you are certain of a rule, it helps to read and show it to the player. If the player questions a ruling, always offer to call another official for a second opinion. Make sure that we've been correct. And some general practices representative of CGA with considerable authority. Look and act in a professional manner. Players are under tension to play well. Make sure you're not adding to that. Never be threatening or overbearing. Also, don't be overly friendly or folksy with players. Make sure you're finding that good middle ground. And things like, how can I help you? And saying that with a good smile. And contact the CGA or OIC if a major problem arises. Rules official is a member of the committee. Stationed on course to observe play, be available on course to give rulings and assist players when they need it. Be visible while being invisible. Our placement and movement is important to make sure that we're, staying out of the way, but also being in sight and being useful when need be. If you need to drive the course, do so going backwards whenever possible, and make sure you got that windshield up so no stray balls are getting where they don't need to be. Be careful coming around corners. You may have players ready to play. Also, if you must wait for a player, stop your cart and don't creep along, making sure that we're not getting in your way at all. When parked, try not to be in sight or want to play. We want to be available to players if they need help, but not so visible that we are disturbing them. Try to park your cart beyond the drive zone or landing zone if possible. Officials are encouraged to assist players in searching for golf balls. Spectators are allowed to help with this as well. Just remember to start your watch. Make sure you're not going over that 3 minutes when you search with a player to find that ball. However, in the case where a player has played a provisional ball, you may not want to find the original ball. Let the player take the lead and join in searching only if the player has begun to search. Rules officials are not necessarily final say in deciding questions of facts. Players should be afforded a second opinion when possible. And also don't approach a player unless asked, with some exceptions, which are to prevent a player from incurring a penalty or provisional declaration. Act on any penalty you observe or has been reported. Assume that players are playing by the rules unless you see otherwise. Pace of play reasons, and ask how long the search has been going on. Make sure you're sticking that 3 minutes max. And if a player looks lost or is unsure on the course. You should park several yards away from players when you are called in or into a situation for a ruling. This helps to ensure that we do not roll over a ball or damage an area that may need to be used. It also allows you a moment to take a breath and assess the situation before getting involved. Depending on the situation, the ruling is required. The time to use your radio is before answering the player. I'll talk about some radio discipline. Use a radio to report or confirm any rulings to CGA OIC. Keep radio with you at all times with your earpiece in. Keep conversations concise and on topic, and non-essential radio chatter kept to minimum. Initial transmission should include who it is and for who is calling. Relay info if needed if people can't be reached on radio. With a repeater system, there is delay, so hold radio button down an extra second to start and finish that transmission. Be mindful of the other radio locations. Like the golf shop, not everyone has an earpiece in. In areas with limited radio coverage, Zello will be used in order to transmit. Good, the rules officials, one who checks their ego at the front entrance, has confidence in their ability to officiate, brings a willingness to learn at each event, has experience, plays a key role in being a good rules official, spends the necessary time to learn and understand the rules of golf, brings a good demeanor to the golf course to best represent themselves in the CGA, and can speak clearly to people and conveying information, both good and bad. Accuracy is the key to officiating. Confer with fellow officials. You are a member of the committee, consult with CGA staff. Most inaccurate rulings can be prevented by consulting with other officials and using the radio. Practice preventive officiating. Officials have the right and obligation to advise the players with respect to the rules when it seems necessary for ball teed outside the teeing area, order of play, announcing and marking procedural requirements. The cleaning is not permitted, and the ball marker has not been returned to its original position. However, it is not the committee's job to babysit players to make sure that we're not micromanaging players out there. How to interact with people on the golf course. Most people are relatively pleasant to be around at our events. However, a rules official sometimes has to deal with less than pleasant players, caddies, parents, and spectators. Well, not caddies anymore. Becoming upset, frustrated, or losing your composure with the people or situation will only make matters worse. Sometimes walking away and asking another official to help the player is the best practice. Officiating takes thick skin sometimes. Please don't ever put your hands on any player for any reason at all. Rules officials are bound to find themselves in awkward situations during tournaments. Always remember that you are a representative of the Carolinas Golf Association. If the situation cannot be resolved in a calm and professional manner, please make sure you're contacting the CGA official in charge as soon as possible to handle that situation for you. Making a ruling. Got some quotes going on here. Most often, the first order of business should be the determination of the facts. Get everyone involved to agree on the facts before announcing a ruling. Be wary of rules requests containing few or no facts. Say, tell me what happened, and make sure that you're listening. There's a sample ruling here. Question, my ball moved. It's a one-stroke penalty, right? How would you answer this question as a rules official? You need to find out more information from the players before making a ruling. Some good questions you guys were asking. Where was the ball when it moved? Who was involved? Where were you and what were you doing when the ball moved? All right. How and when do I approach a player to inform them of a penalty situation? Well, if a rules infraction could not be prevented from occurring or a rule situation has been brought to your attention, you should immediately gather the facts from all parties involved. Consult the rules book and with other committee members. Make sure you're using that radio. Determine a ruling and have rules officials or officials guidebook ready to show the player. Inform the player of his options or any penalties if incurred. Assist the player with any subsequent rules procedures. And once ball is back in play, leave the area so the player can continue their route. Here are some do's and don'ts. The do's are reference your rules decisions book when making a ruling. Show the player the rule decision if necessary. Call in the head rules official or CGA staff member for a second opinion if you're not 100% confident. Take advantage of Rule 20.1C to avoid pace of play issue and allow yourself to make an educated ruling. Ask players if they would like help searching for their golf ball and help to find it. If they say yes, leave the area if possible after making your ruling and keep your cart out of line of the players, play, sorry, keeper far out of line of play vision of players. And the don'ts, argue with players about a rule of ruling, look to find a player breaching a rule of golf and flag throwing. Suggest which option would be best for a player, but make sure they understand their options. Approach a player to get a ruling unless it is obvious that you are needed or the player is clearly doing something wrong. Wait until a player has broken a rule to assist or assess a penalty. No bloody fifes. I still don't know what that means, but. Make sure we're not making counter repair rules without consulting the LIC. All right, now I'll take us into a 5-minute break.
Okay. CGA rules, officials, best practices. One of the most important duties that there is. Being a starter. This cannot be stressed enough how important this is. This is often, especially like qualifiers and such. This could be the only person they come into contact with until scoring. So start a positive professional tone for the players and for the tournament. The starter may be the only official a player has contact with during an event. Ensure that the players start at the time established by the committee. That can be why we call it the starters. Right in the name. All right, distribute scorecards, special notices to the competitors. CGA will provide starters notes. These are just kind of basic details that you need to relay to the players. Answer any rules questions players may ask. If you need any assistance, please call the CGA official in charge. As a starter, make sure you wear an earpiece for your radio. You don't want to be the guy that has the radio on in the middle of the backswing. You hear my voice over the radio. Oh my God. We've all been there. The CGA, a couple of notes when it comes to starting. The CGA does not call groups to the tee. Players are responsible for being at their starting tee time. However, if a player is missing, do what you can to help get the player to the tee on time. Do not go looking for that. The show must go on. Call CGA official in charge to make them aware. If the driving range or putting green is close by, and you still have a few minutes, call over to see if the player is there. Ask the other group or the other players in the group if they have seen the missing player that morning. Be aware of players being at the wrong tee. This happens more often than not. If we're playing in threesomes and you have 4 players show up, chances are one of them is supposed to be on number 10 and number 1. Do not drive around looking for them. The rest of the group still needs to tee off on time. Again, the show must go on. The show must go on. All right, duties of the starter. Below will be waiting for you at the tee. Starter and pairing sheet, tee sheet and pairing sheet, official scorecards, pencils, digital clock, notice of players, and local rule sheets, hole location sheets, Sharpie markers, tees, sunscreen, and bug spray. That will be waiting for you there. Duties of starter. Give to each player their own scorecard. Make sure it has the right name and the hometown. Ask them to exchange scorecards with another player and make sure all players know each other and have been introduced. At junior events, all players use Golf Genius digital scorecards. So if you're working at junior events, all players use Golf Genius digital scorecards. Local rule sheets, daily hole location sheet, 1 per team in a 4-ball event. All right, and this is very important to us as we continue to move forward. In an effort to make CGA championships and qualifiers a more enjoyable experience, we are asking 1 player in each group to live score. This is very important. During the qualifier championship rounds, the starter will provide the GGID to 1 player in the group to facilitate live scoring. All information will be provided on the starter sheet and starter's notes. The CGA official in charge will instruct players to download Golf Genius app prior to the first round. A lot of our players already have this on the phone. I do encourage them to use it. It's just a great feature that helps in many, many ways. Arrive at your assigned tee 20 minutes prior to first starting time to read the rule sheets and starters notes prior to the first group arriving. That way you can get familiar with everything that's going on, any special notes for that day. Maintain order on the first or 10th tee. Only players, caddies, CGA officials on duty are to be in or around the starting area. Do not delay a group because a competitor is late in appearing for the starting time. At USGA events, please note which player was given a caddy bib on the tee sheet to help with collecting them after the round. What's at USGA events? Start each group exactly at their assigned starting time. If you fall behind, contact OIC, official in charge, to ask about catching up on time. If the group did not start on time, this is important, write down their adjusted starting time and communicate any changes to the committee when you can. At events where carts are allowed, no more than 2 carts are allowed per group. Pair players and/or caddies if necessary. Contact OIC if players are not willing to condense carts. Report to the golf shop any extra carts that may need to be left at the starting tee. This is common if the driving range is a ways away. Sometimes we've got extra carts that just get left at the first tee. Time of starting penalties. Player arrives within 5 minutes of the assigned starting time. The penalty for failure to start on time is individual match play, cross and hole, individual stroke play, 2 strokes. So the player arrives within 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, penalty is disqualification. When is a player considered to be late for his starting time, his or her starting time? When the official clock has turned to the assigned starting time. 8 o'clock starting time, player is late when the clock turns from 7:59 to 8. A player is assigned by the committee to a group with a 9 a.m. starting time. He arrives at the first tee at 9:06, but for whatever reason, the starting time has been delayed after he arrives. What is the rule? Question time. A player is assigned by the committee to a group with 9 a.m. starting time. He arrives at the first tee at 9:06, but for whatever reason, starting time has been delayed until after he arrives. I've got no penalty. What else do I have? EQ, no penalty. As the group was unable to start at the time originally established by the committee and the player arrived before they could do so, this player is not in breach of 5.3 because they could not tee off. So he was there before the group was able to tee off. Correct. For whatever reason, ruling out the fairway from the group and teed off before them. All right, so the other side of the event, scoring duties. Officials who assist in scoring play a very important role. This is probably the most important role. All right, discrepancies, disqualifications could arise, and we need to make sure we get it right. It's the committee's responsibility to define the scoring area and when scorecards are considered returned. Checking scores at CGA and USGA qualifiers are all about qualifying. Again, in the name. It is easy as an official to get caught up in the drama of someone close to the cut line. You'll get asked this 100 times. Don't guess or project the cut line. All it takes is a triple bogey to blow over. Tell all players to follow scoring online, and they must be available for a playoff if needed. Some players like to know the cut, some would prefer not to. Ask the players if anyone played a second ball when the players arrive. Ask the players if anyone played a second ball under Rule 20.1C, or if there are any rulings that needed to be decided. Right? That's always a good question to ask in 2-ball situations like that. Ask players to remain in the scoring area while you check and add up the scores. Use the computer to add scores, no math required. It's very important after about hour 13. You'll just type them in. Make certain both the competitor and the marker have signed the scorecard, 2 signatures. All right. And then a good practice, what that make check mark by each name is, it's just good practice, check them off real quick. And then you got it, you can move on. Competitor is responsible for his hole by hole scores. So you got to make sure the numbers in the boxes are correct. 4-ball stroke play, scores must be individually identifiable. We need to know who makes, for the championship 4 balls, we need to know who made that score on the hole. Can't just be the same score all the way across. Committee is responsible for the 9-hole, 18-hole totals and in net events properly applying any handicap strokes received. Scoring area can be a stressful place. players are worried about qualifying or finishing place, and officials are worried about making sure everything is done correctly. Please do what you can to avoid the scoring table while a group is there. All right. If the question can wait, please wait until the group is done and there's a break in action. Scan the QR code provided at all events to keep up to date on the leaderboard and any potential playoffs. Don't hang around at the table, please. Make sure groups, especially the last few, have plenty of space and no distractions to get their cards sorted out and returned. So the last thing we want is a distraction, something happened there, especially with the last couple of groups. Pace of play, everybody loves pace of play. It can be very difficult, but it is very important. Lots of personalities, interpretations of what is a good pace of play, everybody's opinion. Pace of play guidelines will be provided by the CGA official in charge. All right. Changes based on pace of play changes based on formats of play can be adjusted by the official in charge. We're going to cover when to talk to groups about pace of play, be proactive but not aggressive. Look at all factors before speaking to a group. Don't just roll up on a group and be like, where is the group in front of them? Did they just have a long ruling? Did they just look for a ball search? Someone kept a hole. Do not go up to them during the play of a hole if you must address pace of play. Try to wait until the hole is finished, catch them in between. And then please keep in constant communication with the official in charge about groups out of position. And that's because that way, if another group catches up or another group's official sees them a couple holes later, they are up to date on what's going on with that situation. All right, pace of play falls under Rule 5.6. On-course officials spend the majority of their time dealing or concerned with pace of play. This is going to be the number one thing. Pace of play for everybody. There are several different pace of play systems in the world, but CGA uses group time and position. No matter what system is used, it is only useful if the policy is followed. It's an awkward conversation, but it must be followed for the greater good of the people.
Because one of the things there, lost balls. I find it helpful to say to the kid, listen, guys, I know you had a tough hole, so I just try to catch up to the group.
Yes.
Let's get that.
A friendly, soft reminder, especially after maybe an unfortunate home situation.
You know, they don't think you're aware of that. So, you know, they'll be defending themselves. Oh, you know, he took too long putting or looking for his ball or something. And by just saying in the front, you take care of it.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Because they've got, hearts racing from all of the penalties and they feel like so a gentle, friendly reminder. A misconception has been that the allotted time is a pace they should play, but this is the maximum amount of time given prior to implementing pace of play timing procedures and penalties. As well as scorecard, they've always got the pace of play, we provide you Berguzzi sheets, all that good stuff. At CGA events, we may speak to out of position groups and ask them to close the gap, even if they are under their allotted time. Our goal is to be more proactive in helping groups stay in position and under the maximum time. We found that once a group falls out of position, and is over the allotted time, it's truly a tough task to get them back in position. So being proactive, checking in, doing all that stuff, offering those friendly reminders if they are out of position. Being proactive is a lot better than being reactive. This will be a friendly reminder to keep position with the group in front and not an official one. What is out of position for the first group? A group is considered out of position if at any time during the round, the group is behind the prescribed pace of play on the scorecard. Again, they're going to have a time on the scorecard for each hole. And the Berguzzi. The Berguzzi is the timesheet that we provide all of you. It's just the name we've got for it. It's a timesheet. Once they have fallen out of position, then give them the friendly reminder. Leave the group, give them a couple of holes, then recheck their position. Need to let the first group play a few holes to establish a pace of play for the rest of the field. Any following group will be considered out of position when they are over the prescribed time and if reaches a par 3 that is clear of all play and all players in the preceding group have played the strokes from the team ground of the next hole. Reaches a par four, which is not clear of all play, but which becomes clear of all play before all players in group have played their strokes from the team. Reaches a par five, and the group in front of them is hitting on the putting. And I'll give you a second to read, especially the par four there. All right, and then of course the obvious reaches a par four or par five hole, which is clear of all play. All right, here's some text. Your group is over the allotted time and you are out of position. Please work to get back into position by the X number hole. Usually give them 2 or 3 holes to catch up. Thank you. Short, sweet, concise, to the point. Move on. Leave the group, give them a couple of holes, then recheck their position. Don't creep up on them, just follow them along. Leave the group, give them a couple holes, and then recheck their position. The goal is to help groups not reach the point where they may be timed and subject to penalty. And it's always better to be proactive. Some common sense will be needed. All right, threesomes, following twosomes. No. Be gentle in your delivery to avoid possible confrontation with players. All players may not appreciate our efforts, especially if they're having a rough day, but pace of play is pace of play. Don't mention pace of play to groups if there is no pace of play issue. That's an important one. Don't mention pace of play to groups if there's no pace of play issue. All right. Here's an example. You want to take a look at it? You can see the time. So 8:10. That's the time there. Everybody see that? Does that make sense to everybody across the top there? You can see the first group is 8:10. And those are the times that they get finished with the holes. Make sense to everybody? Sorry, I wish it was a little bit bigger. All right, concise and accurate information is critical to enforcing pace of play. I'm not going to read all of these, but I will read just a few. All right. So communication, the 8:20 group, a good one, is the 8:20 group finished the 12th hole at 9:10, 5 minutes behind pace. The 13th hole is open. Do you want me to give them a warning? That is good information. Don't, I'm on the 10th hole and it's empty. Okay. Not a lot of information there to go on. Don't, the 9-10 group is going to finish 5 minutes late on number 11. I'm going to put them on the clock. That's a little aggressive there. The fourth one down on the don't line. Again, we need solid information. Another good one is I gave the 8:40 group a ruling on the 7th hole and it took 4 minutes. They also had to wait for me to get there. So they will be running behind. I told them they need to make up the time. So again, clear, concise, precise, all that. If a group needs to be timed, we will try to have a CGA staff member do the timing. If that is not possible, we may ask you to time the group. Please do not start timing a group before discussing the situation with the OIC. Before timing a group, double check each of the items below to make sure all of the below details are correct. Starting time, because they might have got delayed at the starting time, so the information you got or on your sheet might be off. Overall time. Position relative to the group in front of them. They're in the fairway, the group's on the green, and they don't have anywhere to go.
So we put them on. You want to see go through the OIC?
As long as the OIC is aware of to communicate the situation, the OIC will likely try to be out there to time them themselves. But if you have to put them on the clock, yeah, just make sure the OIC is up to date. And really your other rules officials too, in case there's somebody else going to pick them up. All right. Spread of the field ahead. Is there a backup soon? Some items to keep in mind. This is a big one. Player has 40 seconds to make a stroke. No extra time, grace period, or margin of error given to players, whether they are first or last player to play in the group. CGA pace of play policy for stroke play. First, notify all players in the group if they're out of position behind the allotted pace of play. First bad time, warning to the individuals. Second bad time, stroke penalty. Third, it's a 2-stroke penalty. And fourth is disqualification. Again, our goal is to be proactive, so we never have to have these conversations with the individuals, but we do every once in a while. And this is the structure. Again, notify all players for match play. First bad time, warning to the individuals. Stroke penalty. Third bad time, loss of hole. And then fourth is disqualification. Again, that one's for match play. Question. When a group is going to be timed, how and when should I speak to the group?
We play it.
Well,
Normally, and I finish the one and go into.
right prior to starting a hole, or after all players have played from the teeing area, inform the group that they are being timed. That is exactly right. Also tell them you're there to assist them back into position, spot balls, etc., how you can help. Explain the timing procedure if needed. Ask if there are any questions, and then don't hold them up any longer than necessary. Again, clear, concise. When timing a group, what else do I need to do? Use good judgment, of course. Don't be confrontational with the players. Inform players of bad times before they hit their next shot. Stay with the group until they are back into position. Continue timing. All right. Inform players when they're back in position. And again, this is when we're well into our penalty structure here. Tell the players thank you for gaining their position and ask them to keep pace of play for the remainder of the round. Always tell them thank you. Good job. A pace of play warning remains with the player throughout the tournament. It does not start over after regaining position or at the end of the round. More here. CGA rules official to do and not to do. Do. Make notes of any rulings, ball searches, or other factors that might affect the group's position on the course that you observe. All right, so please don't approach a group during the play of the hole to tell them to speed up if there would be time. And that's during play of the hole. Again, if it's not a problem, don't worry about mentioning to them. Pay attention to all factors. Again, position of the group in front, length of rulings, ball searching, rough hole, before timing. All right, do stay with the group at a distance to help them improve the pace of play. For instance, being a four caddy, a spotter to try to help. For rulings and ball searches when necessary. Don't visibly use the stopwatch to time players. If you need to time a player, do so discreetly and from a distance. We're not out there just following them around. Okay. Please don't continuously pester a group that has fallen behind pace of play. Help them get back in position. And then we have done our jobs. Ed. All right, we're going to round out with officiating match play. Match play is very different from stroke play. Raise your hand if you've done a match play event before. Excellent, excellent. Good news, good news. Match consists of one side playing against another in a head-to-head match. In match play, the game is played by holes, except as otherwise provided in the rules. Hole is won by the side that holds the ball in the fewer strokes. The state of the match is expressed by the terms, so many holes up, tied, and so many to play. The general penalty results in a loss of hole. An observer is one who is appointed by the committee to assist a referee to decide questions of fact and to report to him any breach of a rule. An observer should not attend the flagstick, stand at or mark the position of the hole, or lift the ball or mark its position. Observers are used at very few CGA duties. An observer is a referee's deputy. Stay one shot ahead of the match. Four caddy, drive zone. When players are on the tee, green when players are in the fairway. It's always a step ahead. Position yourself in an area where balls are expected to come to rest. Help referee when determining order of play and where balls enter penalty areas. Start searching for balls that may be lost. Referees' objectives before the match. First, introduce yourself to players and caddies. Right. And it's kind of for the seasoned veterans, higher level events. Ask each player no more than identify the ball they will be using, the head count of their clubs. For our less experienced players in match play, and first time playing match play and stuff like that, they'll need a little bit more guidance. Ask the players if they're familiar with match play rules. If necessary, and in addition to previous screen, or to the previous responsibilities, review duties of a referee to the players, determine questions, facts, basically explain why you're there, to ensure that play is in accordance with the rules, to prevent breaches of rules, whenever possible, be of assistance to the players, make sure concessions are clear. And rule 3.2b, concessions match, hole, or next stroke. Player may concede a match at any time prior to the start or conclusion of that match. Find that 3.2b. A player may concede a hole at any time prior to the start or conclusion of that hole. These are just a couple of quick match play items here. A player may concede his opponent's next stroke at any time. The opponent is considered to have holed out with his next stroke, and the ball may be removed by outside. A concession may not be declined or withdrawn. These are a couple of key things with match play. Let's take a look at that for a little bit, especially that last one. Referees' objectives during a match: stay with the group at all times, but give them space. Practice preventative officiating equally for both sides. Be in a position to watch for improper dropping procedures. Play of another ball without stating its purpose. Playing out of turn. Playing from outside the team area. And moved ball markers that are not moved back. That's a common one. And concessions.
So, yeah, before I get to it, do you find that we I
I'm going to defer to Mr. Wolf and the other senior folks who have had experience with match play. And can't imagine it ever happening, but I'm sure it does. We're talking about it. Anybody run into that situation real quick? No?
I'm ready to stroke like they put out the start.
Yeah.
Instead of being able to not play, remember check your position.
Yeah.
Make sure he's not sticking.
Yeah.
He looked at it. He moved back.
I mean, I can see it happening accidentally, which is why when we go to set up an event, we ask that they remove all the other team markers except for the ones who play. Yes. We've been very fortunate so far, but now that we brought it up, it's probably going to happen 8 times this year. So, oh no. All right. Good practice. This was mentioned earlier. Do not go into bunkers unless assisting with a ball search. Do not go into putting greens unless assisting with a ruling. All right, this is for match play, being a referee. All right, referees' objectives during a match. Decide questions of fact. Apply the rules. Ensure fair play. Maintain decorum in the spirit of game. Stay sharp and prevent breaches of the rules whenever possible. Be diplomatic and very respectful. And then the great Mr. Richard Tufts. A brisk handling of a situation can be upsetting the player, magnify the effect of the penalty far beyond the extent of the penalty itself. That is well worth remembering. Call for backup if needed. Never be too proud of this. We all do it all the time. In fact, when I get to a ruling, one of the first things I do is dial Christmas. Just one of those. Because there's no shame in getting second opinion. Because I would rather admit that I'm wrong and get it right for the player than have something ruin somebody's good round or something. I'd rather ask for help. Always ask for help. Keep conversations to a minimum with players, caddies, and spectators. Objectives during a match. After each hole, announce the individual hole, scores, and match standing. Write down scores, scorecard, internet posting purposes. Again, Golf Genius has allowed a lot of people to be able to follow, grandparents, folks who can't be there, couldn't travel. So this is a really good thing we're doing with the Golf Genius live scoring. Sample match, Dustin Johnson versus Jason Dunn. Dustin had the honor at the first hole, so his score is always announced first, no matter the whole outcome. Player A score, player B score, status of the match. All right, and that's it for me. Oh, I'm glad I'm tapping out now. Look at that. I think Mr. Wolf is up. Yes, question.
How do you handle
That's an excellent question. So two groups on a lot of teams usually are qualifiers. We always do, by and large, a double T. And so for the shotgun starts, really, I can think of the one day. Do we do shotgun starts with anything else? I'll need to, I don't want to butcher the language, and so I'll send you the terms of competitions for that. But I know in our one days, it's based on two things. It is based on being over the allotted amount of time. So it's two factors, kind of a two-pronged thing. You have to be over the amount of time as a whole. And then the second part is you have to be a certain distance behind. So like, for instance, in one days, you have to turn in your scorecard 25 minutes later than the group in front of you finished. So it's a two-pronged thing. Does that make sense? So the first is you have to be over your time. And then the second is you have to, if you are over your time and 30 minutes behind the group in front of you.
So it's really like.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's how we do it in the one days, but I'll need to get the senior four ball stuff.
Do shotgun start. Lead to showcase the best.
Mhm. That would be a good one to look at. I'll pull that terms of competition, then I can send it to you. Sure. Yep. Yes, sir. Mhm.
I found that in the past, somebody it's always just happened.
I'll just start.
Yeah. And I might get basically over the food. And I feel good. People do it seconds. And then you tell them that they do that. They do like, something 30 seconds. So, if you can set up,
I think as soon as you see that researching stuff. So we can, yeah, don't kind of guess on how long they've been there, so you use like the clock for it's been 30 seconds, and you go over there and see how long. You can ask, if you're there, you can ask them. They can speak up much.
This is interesting. As soon as we round the bed and see the roof, and it's not like that.
Yeah, definitely.
You have this situation with the county on. Just what we do. I mean, as soon as we visually see them, we know what they're doing.
Yeah, there's times where it's not interesting. Come around the corner, some already searching, you know, when they started.
So just.
A lot of people there, 3 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
It's the best.
I agree. It's, if you see 8 people over there and you see, you know, it's groups of 3 and you see 6 people, then you can probably safely start as soon as you see them while searching in that area. But if you see one person, it might require some open-ended questions. Yes.
Two-part question. Okay. Let's assume, well, attended the event. And you haven't actually been called, but you see the people back and look at the call. 3-minute clock starts with a player. Correct.
Player of the academy.
Academy.
Yeah, player of the academy.
So, but that's when the 3-minute clock starts.
Mhm. That's correct.
The other question, He said, observers, when observers, is what they do, is to start looking at what they do. There are times when the player might not want that ball down. So you wait and see if he's gonna, he or she's gonna be provisional. I mean, that could be a sign, it's still a provision, could be, I'm going over there, and look very awesome. So do we always go look for it? Not going right there. Go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that ball is, you can't declare that ball just dead. You have to go search for it for 3 minutes before it's, no, before it becomes a lost ball. So they can't just not look for it. They can't leave it out of play. Is that answer? Is that kind of the question you're asking?
But sort of, I mean, I get almost, I get counts, I mean, well, but that's supposed to look for a ball that I'm probably, never gonna find.
So I think if you're, so being an observer is different than.
Right.
Parts of being an official. If you're an observer, just go to the start. If you're a rules official and see someone do a bad shot, then you're kind of getting there at the same time. They kind of like just keep walking. They hit a provisional ball and keep walking. Just let them go on. So they don't have to. Don't have to.
Gotcha. To kind of read what they want.
There's a situation where.
Gotcha.
So at that point, the player has to move. But it's kind of a fun one.
The back was I'm sitting.
Yeah.
Plays the bell.
Interesting. We could. It's very interesting. Any other questions about that pace of play, enforcing it, any good stuff in that regard?
All right, we'll keep going.
Back to Mr. Wolf.
Right now. All right, this is the final stretch. So we're gonna go through our hard card real quickly. Hard card is the collection of model local rules that we've put together that will apply to all of our championships, or all the championships that are using the CGA hard card on the tournament website, not the rules official sign up page, the actual player page, are the terms of competition for each event, and that has the hard card linked. We have a couple different versions of the hard card for junior golf specifically, but the championship hard card will be linked on all the championships that are using this hard card and give you an idea of additional rules that we'll be playing under. So for this year, we have prohibited caddies in all CGA events, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. There's a few different model local rules that are always used around equipment. So conforming drivers, grooves and punch marks, golf balls, metal spikes, all those pretty standard. Resolving issues during the round. So we talk about players must not unreasonably delay play when they're seeking help with the rules. So it talks about, as Damian mentioned, and we'll talk a little bit about longer and about later, using rule 20.1B or by playing 2 balls in stroke play 20.1C3 to keep play moving and then figure out which score we'll use for their official score at scoring. Talk about how we define out of bounds. For the most part, all CGA events will have white stakes to define out of bounds. We'll use white lines every once in a while, and we'll use roads. Oftentimes, we will have the stake end at a public road, and then we'll pick up the public road back around to wherever the stake picks up. Penalty areas, we will almost always paint. We will always paint penalty areas. Have as many stakes out there as we can. One of the model local rules that we use all the time is for relief on the opposite side of a red penalty area coinciding with out of bounds. So in a situation where a ball is in a red penalty area and the out of bounds, one side is penalty area, the other side is out of bounds. We'll define the out of bounds as the bank, the land on the other side of the pond or creek, whatever it may be. And the player hits the ball into that penalty area on the opposite side. They can use the point across on the golf course side to drop within 2 plug lengths over there. We do our best to find all the areas of ground under repair on the course, and we'll mark them with white lines. There may be times where occurs overnight after we've marked the course, or something we just missed sometimes. If you find areas of ground under repair that you think may be ground under repair, please let us know and we'll take a look at them. And we don't want each member of the committee giving different grounds under repair standard rulings. So want that to be standardized as much as we can and have the official in charge making those decisions. Whenever a club has put down new turf, always give relief from the seams of the cut turf. We'll tie in, a lot of times there'll be areas, kind of high traffic cart path areas get worn down. Sometimes we'll tie in a white line to kind of extend the area of that cart path. And you can treat any areas like that as an extension of the cart path. We talked about integral objects earlier, so includes cables, rods, wires, or wrappings when closely attached to trees, artificial walls and pilings when located in penalty areas and bunkers, unless otherwise denoted. So we talked about players do not get relief from those integral objects, so just doing a little bit more defining of those. And then you'll see as well on the notice to players where we put in some tournament or course specific rules that the players will get on the first tee. A lot of times we'll list additional integral objects if we think they're going to be involved in play more often than usual. We have the TIO language in there. So we say all CGA championship signage, including pole sign, post, banners, and T signs, is considered movable. Any CGA sign that is not readily movable may be considered a TIO. So as much as we can, we'll move stuff out of the way. If it's too much to move or we're not able to move it, we'll treat all that as a TIO. Every once in a while, we get a ball deflected by a power line. So if it's known or virtually certain that a player's ball hit a power line or a tower or a wire or a pole supporting a power line during the round, the stroke does not count. And player must play a ball without penalty from where the previous stroke was made. We play the 2x2 rule, it's called, immovable obstructions close to the putting green. So relief from interference by an immovable obstruction may be taken under Rule 16.1. So the situation comes up oftentimes where there's a sprinkler head just off the green and the player's ball is on that line of play. The sprinkler head is in between and the player's ball is within 2 club lengths of the sprinkler head, and the sprinkler head is within 2 club lengths to the edge of the green. So we have that model local rule. Talked a lot about pace of play, so that's on the hard card as well. So you can always point to that for players when hopefully you don't have a difficult discussion about that, but just in case, it's on the hard card for you to point to. We talk about stopping and resuming play. Hopefully doesn't come up too much this year, but it always happens from time to time. We're pretty generous on our stopping and resuming play policy. By the letter of the law, if we stop play and someone hits a shot after that, they can be penalized. So our policy, though, is play is not stopped until the horn has been blown and each group has been informed that we're stopping play. So if someone's on far side of the course and we have 2 rules officials, someone's by the clubhouse, someone's on the front 9, and people on the farthest part out of the back 9 didn't hear. We don't want them to be penalized because we don't have enough resources to get out and blow the horn for everybody. So as soon as we blow the horn, we'll head out on opposite sides of the course, inform every group and help them with any questions they have. So we're pretty generous on that on the player side for stopping and resuming play. So we define the round as CGA championship rounds are 18 holes unless otherwise denoted prior to the round. CGA qualifying rounds are 18 holes consisting of 2 9-hole rounds. And we say that in case of weather. So if we can get all players done with 9 holes at a qualifier and we're not going to be able to get everyone done with 18 holes, we'll chop the qualifier in half and have half the players went off the first hole, half the players went off the 10th hole. We'll just use their 9-hole scores and we can allocate qualifying spots that way. We have scorecard certification for when a player's scorecard is deemed returned. Once the score is returned to the scoring area, if the player returns the scorecard without the holes being certified by either the player, the marker, or both, the player gets the general penalty. So this was a new model local rule that the USGA came up with, so that if you are missing a signature, it's a two-stroke penalty instead of a disqualification. So we'll be using that one going forward. Ties and playoffs, so the majority of our qualifiers take in ties. So as soon as the last group is done, we're done. They don't need to hang around for a playoff. All of our USGA qualifiers, ties need to be broken by playoff. And then we also now we now break ties for our North Carolina amateur match play qualifier or match play championship and our South Carolina amateur match play championship. So at those qualifiers, we'll have to tell the players, you need to stay. You're going to be on the cut line. Please stay. We're going to have an on-course playoff at the end of the day. And then our competition is final when the trophy has been presented to the winner. Prize money has been distributed. All scores have been approved by the committee. And the result of the match is final when the committee has approved the results. Some examples of local rules you're likely to see on the notice to players that we'll have at each event. We'll talk about big areas of ground under repair. We do not list every single area of ground under repair, but if there's a big area, especially in the area, the fairway or up near green, that we think is likely to get a lot of traffic, we will list that on the notice to players. We'll list the examples of obstructions and anything on the course that might be a little bit confusing as to whether it's an obstruction or not. We'll list that. If there's any mandatory relief areas or no play zones on the course, we'll list them individually. If we know we're going to play preferred lies, we'll go ahead and put that on the rule sheet. Most of the time, that's a morning of decision, but sometimes it's plainly obvious that we're playing preferred lies. So we'll put that on the rule sheet if we can. We talked about sandy areas being played as either part of the general area or if they're treated as bunkers. We always differentiate that on the rule sheet. And we'll list any drop zones that would be an additional option for players under usually a penalty area relief, but any other rule that they can use drops for. So this year we decided to do away with caddies in CGA events. Interested to see how it will go. We basically got to the point where groups with caddies were playing at a significantly slower rate than groups that did not have caddies. A few other golf associations had already done this and seen good success with it. I think there's going to be some people who are upset with it. I think the majority of the people will like the idea, but we shall see how it goes. So obviously at USGA qualifiers, we're playing under USGA rules. So the new caddy rule will not be in effect at any USGA qualifiers, but TIGA and CGA Junior Championships and qualifiers. For TIGA events, there are no caddies, players are walking. CGA Junior Championships, caddies are not allowed, players are walking. And since we, as a thank you to the club, help them generate some revenue and help the parents get around, we will typically rent spectator carts to the parents. And then we ask that those carts stay on the path and away from play as much as possible. CGA men's and women's championships and qualifiers caddies are now not permitted. All our carts are typically used by players. Oftentimes we actually bring in more carts. So spectator carts are not available early in the round or early in the championship. Sometimes we will rent carts to spectators after the cut is made, but usually not. And USGA qualifiers, players must walk. Caddies may walk or rent a cart, depending on what the host club likes to do. Players are allowed to sit in a stationary cart, which can be a little dangerous, but that is okay. And then the US Senior Amateur and the US Senior Women's Amateur are different in that they allow either the player or the caddy to ride, but not at the same time. So that was our old CGA policy, is the current USGA policy.
So USGA events, only events that would be have caddies.
Yes, CGA conduct, yes.
Here's what about Tiger Tots.
Yeah, Tiger Tots is different. I left Tiger Tots out here. But yeah, so Tiger Tots, a person who's 18 years or older has to caddy. Tiger Tots is our, is it 5 to 13?
It goes up to, now it goes up to 12.
5 to 12, yes.
Something like that. I think it's all required.
Yes, so they are required to have a caddy, more just for
If they want to play.
keeping, yes, just to keep the peace.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to keep that one separate from this, it's all right, from this discussion.
They work.
I work everything. Cool.
That very first one, I think, where it's much worse. Is that aeration course or is that something else? My God.
No, grooves and punch marks are on the clubs. Yeah, when this it's pretty old now. When they changed the groove rules on irons and wedges, really. All right, so we'll have a vote. Either we can have a 5-minute break or we can forge ahead. Keep going? All right. Last one, Rule 20. So last but not least, it is actually very important, especially for everyone here about how referees can be involved in decisions and when we can fix errors by the committee and when we cannot. So 20.1, resolving issues during the round, resolve rulings on issues under the rules, and finally, situations not covered by the rules. So we'll cover what to do when a player is seeking a ruling during a round, the differences between match play issues and stroke play issues, and then rulings overall, and when, most importantly, when wrong rulings can and cannot be corrected. So our purpose is to cover when players have questions during the round, what should they do, what the proper procedures are, and what options are available to them based on when they speak up. Rule also covers the role of referees who are authorized to decide questions of fact and apply the rules. And rulings from a referee or the committee are binding on all players. So players must avoid unreasonable delay when seeking help with the rules during a round. If the referee or the committee is not available in a reasonable amount of time to help on a rules issue, players have to decide what to do and keep moving. We can't, as much as we can, we're trying to get out and see as many groups as we can, have as many officials out on the course as we can. But just fact of the matter is not always going to be an official around the corner to help them. So in that situation, the player can protect their rights by asking for a ruling in match play or by playing 2 balls in stroke play. So in match play, like we said earlier, don't do too much match play, but it's good to know. So during a round, players in a match may agree how to decide a rules issue. The agreed outcome is conclusive, even if it turns out to have been wrong under the rules. So these 2 guys are ready for their match. They have a rules issue. He says, I dropped 2 club lengths from the cart path on the last hole. That's right, isn't it? And his opponent says, yeah, that's how I've always done it. So obviously we're supposed to be 1 club length away, but they've agreed. They've agreed on a different solution. And even though that's wrong under the rules, that's what we're going to do for this match. The caveat is that as long as the players did not agree to ignore any rule or penalty they knew applied. So a different situation is I have 15 clubs. I'll take 2 clubs out of play if you don't call a penalty on. The guy said, yeah, okay. Just make sure one of them is your driver. So there's a difference between, especially in match play, difference between being ignorant to the rules and just, essentially deciding your own set of rules to play on versus saying, I don't like this rule. How about we skip that rule today? And the other guy saying, yeah, I hate that rule too. We're not going to play that one. So when a referee is assigned to the match, the referee must rule on any issue. Hopefully you are between the referee and the observer, can see everything that's going on. It comes to your attention right away before the next stroke is made, and we can step in and fix things. And when a referee is assigned to the match, players must follow that ruling. So in the absence of a referee, if players do not agree or have doubt about how the rules apply, either player may request a ruling under Rule 20.1b2. So if the ruling request is made before the result of the match is final, so when a player wants a referee or the committee to decide how to apply the rules in their match based on what they did or based on what their opponent did, the player may make a request for a ruling. If a referee or the committee is not available in a reasonable time, the player may make the request for a ruling by notifying the opponent that a later ruling will be sought when a referee becomes available. So he says, I want a ruling on whether fixing aeration holes on the green is a penalty against you. So as long as that request has been made in time, then a ruling can be given in the future by the committee. A ruling may be given only if the request is made in time, which depends on when the player became aware of the facts creating the issue that we're bringing up. So when the player becomes aware of the facts before either player starts the final hole of the match, when the player becomes aware of the facts, the ruling request must be made before either player makes a stroke to begin another hole. So if whatever the issue was comes up on the 4th hole, I need to bring it up before we tee off on the 5th hole. I can't have something happen on the 4th hole that I'm not sure about. I think about it for an hour, and then on the 9th hole say, Cody, I don't think that was right. I think I want to get a ruling when we get into scoring. Cody cheats all the time. So you got to bring it up before we tee off on that next hole. When a player becomes aware of the facts during or after the completion of the final hole of the match, the ruling request must be made before the result of the match is final. So if it comes up on our final hole, I need to speak up before we submit our results to the committee and our match is final. Or in the situation where things can come up after our match, still need to speak up as fast as possible and make the ruling request before the match is final. So if the player does not make the request in that time period, a ruling will not be given by a referee or the committee, and the result of the holes in question stand, even if the rules were applied in the wrong way. So if you don't speak up in time, like I said, think about it for 4 or 5 holes, it's too late, and whatever happened is going to stand for the match. So if the player requests a ruling about an earlier hole, a ruling will be given only if all 3 of these apply. The opponent breached rule 3.2D1, giving the wrong number of strokes taken, or for failing to tell the player about a penalty. The request is based on facts that the player was not aware of before either player made a stroke to begin the hole being played, or in between holes, the hole just completed. So got to speak up before we play that next hole. And after becoming aware of these facts, the player makes a request for a ruling in time. So player A says, well, we were playing number 9. Someone told me that you fixed aeration holes on the 4th green. Is that true? So he's brought this up on the 10th tee. And that's okay because it was brought to his attention on the 9th hole. So my previous example, something happens in the 4th hole of our match that I know about. I can't wait until the 9th hole to bring it up. But if it's something I was not previously aware of, he says, someone told me that you fixed aeration holes, you didn't know about to begin with, then you need to bring it up before the start of that next hole. So he's bringing it up before we tee off on number 10.
Is that what the player, the competitor can get advice from a spectator?
Well, it's not advice, but if a rules issue is brought to your attention, then it's when it becomes aware to the player that clock starts that we need to speak up before the next hole. So for rulings requests that are made after the result of the match is final, when the player makes a request for a ruling after the match is final, the committee will give a player a ruling only if both of these apply. The request is based on facts the player was not aware of before the result of the match is final, and the opponent breached same two rules, giving them the wrong number of strokes taken or for failing to tell the player about a penalty. And the opponent knew of the breach before the result of the match was final. So this essentially gets to a point of cheating almost. Player gave the wrong number of strokes, knew they did it, and didn't speak up. So at that point, in that situation, then a request, you can make a request after the result of the match is final, and the committee was still able to act on that one. So very particular example that thankfully doesn't come up very often, but it's a little bit different than all the other situations. And there is no time limit on giving such a ruling in that case. So when we're in match play, You do not have the right to play two balls. We talked earlier, we'll talk a little bit more about playing two balls if you're uncertain of what to do. So a player who is uncertain about the right procedure in a match is not allowed to play out the hole with two balls. Procedure only applies to stroke play. I think it essentially gets to the point where your opponent wouldn't know what to do really. If you have two different balls in play, you're just playing against two different scores. So not an option in match play. So we'll switch over to stroke play now. Players do not have the right to decide rules by agreement. This happens an incredible amount of times. So if a referee or a committee is not available in a reasonable amount of time to help with the rules issue, the players are encouraged to help each other in applying the rules, but they do not have the right to decide a rules issue by agreement. And any such agreement they may reach is not binding on any player, referee, or committee. It also includes any rulings that players get from parents, coaches, caddies. Thank you for trying to help, but that's not gonna be what we go with. We'll hear a lot in scoring. You know, everyone in my group decided it would be okay if I got relief from that. It's good to hear you guys all getting along, but we're gonna have to go with the actual rules. So player needs to raise any rules issues with the committee before returning their scorecard, and hopefully we can get it sorted out at that point. So part of stroke play is players playing against the entire field. So biggest difference in match play, obviously match play, it's just you playing against someone else. So we talked earlier about, you know, if two players in a match are playing by the wrong rules, it doesn't really affect the rest of the competition. We're just trying to figure out the winner of that match versus a group in stroke play is part of the entire competition. We don't want those three players playing by a different set of rules than the other 141 players in the event. So players should protect other players in the competition. So to protect the interest of all the other players, the player knows or believes that another player has breached or might have breached rules, and the other player does not recognize or is ignoring this. Player needs to speak up, tell the committee, tell the other player, tell the player's marker, tell the referee, and or all of the above, tell the committee. So encourage players all the time. You got to speak up when you see something that you think is not right. So we need this to be done promptly as soon as the other player becomes aware of the issue, and no later than before the other player returns their scorecard. There's certain situations where it's not possible, but we want to do everything we can to get all the information available as fast as we can. If you're in scorecard collection, first thing when you say when everyone sits down is, were there any rules issues that we need to talk about while you're out there? Make sure everyone says no. That's kind of basically the last chance to speak up before we start signing scorecards, and makes it much more difficult to fix things after that. So if the player fails to do so, the committee may disqualify the player under Rule 1.2a if it decides this was serious misconduct contrary to the spirit of the game. So it's not always the player that was breaking the rules is the one who gets disqualified. If you're playing in a stroke play competition and you know someone's cheating and don't speak up, sign the scorecard, we can get to the point where under the standards of play, that player can be disqualified either with or instead of the player who committed the penalties. So my favorite rule is 20.1c3, playing two balls when uncertain what to do. So like I said, we always like to have rules officials there ready to help out every single minute of every single event, but it's not quite possible. So a player who is uncertain about the right procedure when playing a hole, we encourage them. When you're a starter, this will always be listed on the starter sheet. We encourage players to play two balls without penalty. There's a particular procedure for how to do it. Make sure they don't get themselves into trouble. So the player must decide to play two balls after the uncertain situation arises and before making their next stroke. So you can't say, I think this lie should be ground under repair, but I'm not sure. Then you hit a bad shot and say, yeah, I'm gonna play two balls in. I'm gonna drop one over here and see. So it's got to be before you make your next stroke, and once that uncertain situation comes up. So the player needs to choose which ball will count if the rules allow the procedure used for the ball by announcing that choice. So throughout this process, we need the players to communicate with their marker and with the other players in the group. We need the player to announce their choice to their marker or to another player before making a stroke. If the player does not choose in that time, the ball played first is treated as the ball chosen. And when we get to scoring, so you have the option of next time you see a rules official, you can inform the committee that satisfies this requirement. Or if you don't see a rules official by the time you get around, or just doesn't work to run across the fairway to talk to the rules official, just bring it up have the player bring it up when they get to scoring. So the player must report the facts of the situation to the committee before returning their scorecard, even if the player scores the same with both balls. So go back to the procedure real quick. Lady's not sure if she gets ground under repair relief for ground under repair from that bare spot there. So announces to her playing competitors, I'm going to play 2 balls from here. At that point, she can either play the ball in the area that may be ground under repair or the ball taking relief first, doesn't matter. Play both balls out, keep both scores. And if you're required to tell the committee when you get into scoring, and that's the case, even if you make, 4, 5, 6, whatever the score is, both with both balls. So if they have a different score, well, hold on. So the player is disqualified if they fail to do so. So, like I said, when you're scoring, ask them any rule situations that we need to talk about while you're out there, to generate that conversation. Sometimes you say you get a player to say, "Oh yeah, I played 2 balls back on the 8th hole." So try and help them out and stay out of that situation.
Is that rule because you don't want the player to be playing 2 balls from that spot?
Honestly, I don't know. It seems very penal. I don't understand why. If I play 2 balls on the 8th hole and I make a par with both, I have to tell the committee. But regardless, that is it. I'll actually ask about that.
Part about announcing your marker when you want to score.
Yes.
I think that part of the rule was lost on the players. They seem to not know that part of the rule.
I think for the most part, it's clear which ball they want to count. So I'm lenient on that. If the situation comes up, I mean, usually like in this case, she obviously doesn't want the ball played from the bare patch to be the one to count. She's not taking relief, just for fun. So if you're going through the process of playing a ball off the good grass and playing a ball off the hard pan, then I think we work under that's the
good grass.
Yeah, that's the one you want to score. And it does come up a lot of times where the player plays 2 balls, takes relief. They make a better score with the worst, what was the worst lie to begin with. And if we end up saying, sorry, you do get relief there, they have to take the worst score. So it does work out that way sometimes, but overall, we're trying to keep the players out of any penalty situation, especially disqualification situations. So prompt them as much as you can at scoring to generate that trigger in their mind so that they bring up that they did play 2 balls. So we're back to playing 2 balls when uncertain what to do. If the player made a stroke before deciding to play a second ball, the rule does not apply at all. So you said you have to decide to do this as soon as the issue comes up and before you play your next shot. So if you make a stroke at the ball and then decide, the rule does not apply. The score that counts is the score with the ball played before the player decided to play the second ball. But there's actually no penalty for doing this incorrectly. So the rest of playing the second ball, all the strokes with the second ball don't matter. You just get the score for the ball that you played before you decided that it might be an issue. So the second ball played under this rule is not the same as a provisional ball. So it has a completely different relationship to the ball that's in play. So it's not provisional, it's a second ball that may be scored. So when a player plays 2 balls and say everything is done correctly, we get into scoring. The player plays 2 balls under this rule, and the committee will decide the player's score for the hole. So we start with the score with the ball chosen, whether it was by the player or by default. And if everything that the player did procedure wise and rules wise is correct, then the score with the ball chosen counts. If the rules do not allow the procedure for that ball, then the score with the other ball counts. So most often it's, I think most often I see is probably ground under repair. Player hits a ball into a spot that they think isn't very good. He says, I think I get ground under repair relief from this. Play 2 balls in. A lot of times we know about if we, especially multi-day tournaments, we know the course really well. The guy will say, I was on the right side of number 4, and you say, yeah, under that tree, we decided we need to play it from there. You don't get ground under repair relief. So, okay, so he'll use the ball played from the bare patch counts. Sometimes the course conditions worsen throughout the week, or like I said, we just don't see something. We'll ride back out and say, yeah, that should have been ground under repair. So then you get the ball tip, you count the score with the ball that took relief outside of the area ground under repair, and we count that.
But the player needs to identify that ball before any strokes.
Or they need to identify it or hit that ball first. So it's whichever ball you want to count, or whichever, if you don't announce that, it's whichever ball you hit first.
Oh, okay.
So problems start to arise when the rules do not allow the procedure used for each of the 2 balls. So say we managed to break the rules with both balls. The score with the ball chosen counts unless there was a serious breach in playing that ball from the wrong place. So in that case, the score with the other ball counts. And if things really go downhill, if there was a serious breach in playing each ball from the wrong place, then the player is disqualified. Then at that point, we just don't have a score for that hole. There's not much else we can do. But I've never seen that come up. It's more of the academic application of the rule. So all strokes made with the ball that does not count, including strokes made and any penalty strokes along the way, do not count in the player's score for the hole. They could make a 4 with the ball that counts and a 25 with the ball that doesn't count. And all 25 get washed away when we get into scoring. So we have an internal definition for rules allow the procedure used. So it means either the original ball was played as a live and play was allowed from there, or the ball that was played was put in play under the right procedure, in the right way, and in the right place under the rules. So our score that counts has to fit one of either A or B there. Any questions? All right, we'll keep going. So a referee is an official named by the committee to decide questions of fact and apply the rules. The referee may get the committee's help before making a ruling, but a referee's ruling on the facts or how the rules apply must be followed by the player. Player has no right to appeal a referee's ruling to the committee, but after a ruling has been made, the referee may get a second opinion from another referee or refer a ruling to the committee for review. But we're not under obligation to do so. For the most part, if something comes up where there's really a question confrontation. So this only comes up in some of our mass fight championships. And if it gets to the point where the player wants a second opinion or appeal, we want you to reach out to the official in charge at that point. But from the rules perspective, referee is not required to do so there. So a referee's decision is final. So if a referee authorizes a player to breach a rule in error, the player will not be penalized. But for when a wrong ruling by a referee or the committee can be corrected, which we'll get to in a tiny bit. So there's no referee, when there is no referee to give a ruling, or when a referee refers a ruling to the committee, the ruling will be given by the committee and the committee's ruling is final. So if the committee cannot reach a decision, we end up calling the USGA rules hotline and seeing if we can get them to help us out. So wrong rulings gets an internal definition. So wrong ruling has occurred when a referee or the committee has attempted to apply the rules, but has done so incorrectly. So our guy here is dropping from shoulder height and referee is not paying attention, doesn't realize that he's dropped from shoulder height, but since the referee is there helping them go through that go through that procedure, then the wrong ruling has occurred, and the referee has attempted to apply the rules, but obviously not done so correctly. So examples of wrong rulings include applying a wrong penalty or failing to apply a penalty, applying a rule that does not apply, or just made one up, doesn't even exist. And I think most often we get misinterpreting a rule and applying it incorrectly. So if a ruling by a referee or the committee is later found to be wrong, we can correct it as much as possible under the rules. If it's too late to do so, then the wrong ruling stands. So if a player takes an action in breach of a rule based on a reasonable misunderstanding of a referee's or a committee's instruction during a round or while play is stopped, there is no penalty and the instruction is treated like a wrong ruling. So in a situation where the player is dropping from shoulder height, is in a conversation with the referee the whole time, and the referee doesn't correct while he's there, and he's, all right, your ball's back in play, you're good to go. There is no penalty in instruction. We're treating that that instruction as a wrong ruling. So we have committee procedures in way back, pages 430 to 435. Spell out what the committee should do when there has been a wrong ruling. Hopefully we don't need to get to those, but every once in a while, a couple times throughout the year, we'll end up going through those. So these are different than administrative mistakes. So an administrative mistake is a procedural error in relation to the administration of the competition. And there's no time limit for correcting such a mistake, even after the result of a match is final or a stroke play competition has closed. So treat administrative mistakes differently from a wrong ruling. Our examples get most often miscalculating a handicap resulting in the wrong player winning the competition. Every once in a while we can add up the strokes wrong. Well, Golf Genius has pretty much gotten rid of that one. And awarding a prize to the wrong player after failing to post a winner's score. Hope that never happens. So in these situations, the mistake should be corrected and the result of the competition should be amended accordingly. Like I said, most often our second bullet point with a handicap issue that needs to be resolved, and that falls under the administrative error as opposed to the wrong ruling error. So in match play, there is no time limit on disqualifying a player under Rule 1.2 for serious misconduct, or 1.3b1 for deliberately failing to apply a penalty or agreeing with another player to ignore any rule or penalty they know applies. And this can be done even after the result of the match is final. In match play, so when the committee will give a ruling, when a request is made after the result of the match is final, we'll see Rule 20.1b3, which we talked about just a little while ago. In stroke play, normally a penalty must not be added or corrected after a stroke play competition is closed. So competition has closed is defined as when the result becomes final in the way set by the committee. In stroke play qualifying, followed by match play, when the player has teed off to start their first match. So, but a player must be disqualified even after the competition is closed if they returned a score for any hole lower than actually taken, which are probably our biggest example. Except the player is not disqualified if the reason for their lower score is the exclusion of one or more penalty strokes that they did not know about before the competition closed. So you get off the hook if it's a situation where we and they didn't know about a penalty situation that occurred, signed their scorecard correctly for what we thought was at the time, and then we need to make a change to it later on. Player must be disqualified if they knew before the competition has closed that they were in breach of any other rule with a penalty of disqualification, or they agreed with another player to ignore any rule or penalty they knew applied. So again, doesn't happen very often, but just in case we get to that point, end up probably disqualifying both players in that situation. And the committee also has the ability to disqualify a player under Rule 1.2 for serious misconduct after the competition is closed. So Don't think that's ever happened at a CGA event. Hope it doesn't. It's 20.3, our last one, kind of the catch-all. Any situation not covered by the rules should be decided by the committee, considering all circumstances, treating the situation in a way that is reasonable, fair, and consistent with how similar situations are treated under the rules. So it's very vaguely written, but essentially, if you find yourself in a situation not covered by the rules, find whatever the committee talk through it, whatever they think is the most fair, reasonable, and most similar to the most similar situation you can find in the rules, how that would be applied, and go from there. Questions there? All right, that's all we got. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate, like I said, all the time out on the course, and you making the trip and being here today. And you'll see many more emails from us throughout the year. I'll send you all a recap on Monday or Tuesday, and put as many links in it as well as stuff we talked about today. But thank you again for your time. We look forward to seeing you all out on the course.
Great job.
Good job. Thanks, Rick. Jody? Thank you.